Billy, I noticed that at the end of one of your tracks, you turned it over and did that. What are the other?
We can't use the brush. You told him that, so we have to put it back.
I'm going to use my.
What are the other things you can get out of the brushes besides the basic swish pattern? You can do the ring. What are the other sounds you can get out of the brushes?
Oh, he hit the cymbal with it.
He did that. Go on.
Oh yeah, Billy.
He's a pro, man.
Well, I use the candle.
I'm trying to.
Roll on the cymbal, like if you had a mallet, and just use the rubber.
The rubber part,
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
That's one. There's so many different ways.
Just use your
What else?
imagination.
Well, tell me, what else? What are the other sounds?
On a bossa nova, I'll sometimes take the back of the brush and I'll move it back and forth like tick, 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 on the ridges of the cymbal.
Explain that again, I'm sorry.
I'll take the back of the brush, I'll use the ring of the handle, and I'll move it like
All right.
on the hi-hat cymbal.
Oh, that's cool.
So because, you know, you got the tonal grooves in the cymbal, the lathing, and if you got a cymbal with a certain kind of rough lathing, you can do like a guiro effect. You can do that. I mean, man,
what
there's
else?
so many
You
different.
get the same, you get the similar. Rolling the brush.
It just brings up another story.
Roll the brush back and forth.
All right, let Billy have the floor. Go ahead.
I remember when I had to play with this Brazilian singer named Gilberto, and I don't care what I did, I couldn't play soft enough. The brushes sounded so loud. It sounded like a airplane. You just couldn't play soft enough with that. So then I began to try all these different kinds of ways of doing it. You know what I'm saying? You know, just I forgot about that, right? So yeah, so at a certain point, like Adam was saying, I actually just played some of the brush on my leg.
Right, up in the DVD.
Right, yeah. And the back of the brush too. It's not just the swish. It's the use of the brush itself.
What do you mean?
I mean, there's the rubber part, there's the metal part, and the wire part.
So you were playing the rim with the side of the brush.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
And a lot of times that was too loud.
Really?
So you keep, that's amazing to tell some young kid that's thinking they're playing soft when they're saying like, you know.
Was the brush on the leg audible? I guess it was, right?
It was the softest that I could play it, but it was really loud. I mean, playing with this guy, it was really loud.
Did you play the bass drum in that situation still?
Yeah, but I mean, but then they say the older drummers had perfect acoustic control over their legs, over their feet also. Perfect. They saw Papa Joe Jones or Sylvie Singleton or Sid Catlett. They had perfect
They recorded the whole drum set with one microphone.
Okay.
You know,
what else can we do with the brush besides the basic
Well, like you brought up
swish?
the zing, you know, the
Right,
zing,
right.
Using the
And rolling on the cymbals.
I think
Make
it's.
it like a mallet.
Yeah.
I think you have to you have to have these tools in your hands, and then just experiment. Try. I always think Art Blakey saying, "Be a fool." Go ahead, try, see what happens. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try.
I think what you're bringing up at this point is that hasn't been as yet a real academic solution to playing the brushes.
Maybe there shouldn't be. Maybe it should remain.
Well, it won't ever be.
I don't think so, because it's so personal.
That's right. It's never be academic.
Here we got all these drummers here, and everybody play the brushes different.
Totally differently.
But music comes out. The same music. Whatever we do, it all funnels into music.
When you pulled all these guys together, did you all realize how differently everyone was going to play the brushes? I mean, you'd see them all play before.
My idea was to try to get a cross-section of individuals, I mean, I would have loved to have been able to bring forth some of the Brazilian cats, because they have another way of doing it.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then, you get other people who've got their own choreography. You look at Jimmy Cobb, he's got something different. Louis Hayes has got something different. Jake Hanna has something different. Joe LaBarbe, every guy you look at, Lewis Nash, Kenny Washington,
'Cause it is so
on and
personal.
on. Joe
Yeah.
Gibbs,
Jeff
everybody's,
Hamilton.
Jeff Hamilton,
Jeff
everybody's
Hamilton,
got something
You know,
different.
You could do this, this could be a series. This could
Yeah,
be
right.
part one.
Right.
You could get
Right.
7 different
Yeah.
guys, do
Right.
part 2,
Yeah.
and then we could keep going.
Right.
Yeah, you could get Ayrton,
forever,
you could
forever.
get Paulino Braga, you could get Duduca, you
Duduca,
could
right.
get Portino, you
Right.
could get, you know, Ignacio, there's a whole bunch of,
There's
that world.
a young drummer, Gregory Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Right, and the first thing impressed me about him, I heard that Lush Life record that he did
With Joe.
with Joe Henderson, and I couldn't believe a kid that young knew that much about the brushes.
Yeah.
So when I finally met him a couple of years later, I said, man, how did you do that? I mean, how did you understand it? Most kids are like, you know, just learning how to play their backbeat at your age. He said, I listened to Papa Joe Jones.
Bingo. The same thing that you guys did.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you try to learn from the best. You
Sure,
know what I mean?
of course.
You try to go there. I mean, you know, as a kid listening to Vernell Fournier, going down and then watching him. You know, for me, sitting in the Vanguard, in that little seat behind that post, that was so much an education for me. That's where I saw all you guys play. And then I was thinking, well, man, we have to do this DVD so kids that don't have that chance have a chance to get an idea about what this is, so it's not such a mystery.
Yeah. What is the
You heard what I
role?
said about that, what Joe Jones told me that time? I said it in in the video. I said the first time he was standing on 44th Street in the hotel. That's when I first came in. And he always kept a drum set setting up in his living room. Never played on it. He said he practicing it, but just looking at it. So I went, you know, I'm saying, oh, Joe Jones, I went and got my brushes, man. He was like back in the back when it was an apartment. He was like in the kitchen. I went in the drums. So I went and looked at the brushes and I was in that room. And then I came back, you know, to get some kind of amen. He couldn't go there. And he looked at me and said, I heard you in there digging those potatoes. No, I had a lot of work to do. So I heard you in there digging those potatoes. You know, but that made me say, whoa, he didn't tell me nothing to do. He didn't say nothing about how to do it.
No,
No, he never said
No,
that.
no.
Always he said, have you ever tried it like
But he
this?
said, when he said that, I knew.
Y'all remember his main critique of somebody trying to roll? He said, you're doing dog paws.
Yeah.
One of his favorite.
He used to come in the Mittens Playhouse and sit there for the whole set at the bar. Then when I get off, I go over to get my critique from him. And he put a nickel on the bar and get up and leave. And he called me, I'll critique you tomorrow.
Can we talk about the how the bass drum differs in playing brushes versus sticks? What is the main difference?
It's softer.
Basically, yeah, basically. A lot of times when you're playing brushes, unless it's something that's kind of, you know, that's kind of full, you can almost leave the bass drum out. I hate to say this because I'm a bass drum nut, but when you're playing brushes, especially if you're playing something that's really light, something that's really soft and light, you really don't need the bass drum.
Really?
But if you're dealing with, you know, with something that's got some intensity to it,
There's some rhythmic.
yeah,
Playing a
even
ballad,
though-
you might not play the bass drum.
Yeah, because you really, what he was
Not-
saying
not
earlier,
really, not
you gotta
really.
make the pulse with the brushes.
Yeah.
You gotta make the pulse with the brushes.
That's gonna come from your swish, your sound, you know?
But everybody was playing the bass drum on the DVD. For
Sometimes I play it,
Yeah.
it depends. It depends on what the situation
Well,
is.
that's balance too.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, most of the drummers that came out of our era had this kind of balance.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
If
it
somebody's-
might not be, it wouldn't be loud, but it'd be just enough to make you feel.
But we learn
Yeah.
as opposed to the way the drummers taught a lot now.
Right.
We learn to play the instrument from the bottom up.
That's right.
You know, you play,
And you know, that's like breathing
yeah.
from here up and out. You know,
When older
people don't
drummers, when older
understand.
drummers would come to see heroes play, I'm sure you all experience the same thing. The first thing an older drummer would, if they were going to critique you, they'd say, how's his foot?
Yeah.
And how's his rope?
Right.
That's right.
That's
right.
right. Those are the
That's
first two
right.
things.
So if you were going to practice just, or whatever Eddie was showing me there for a second, would you practice it as a kid with the bass drum on all fours?
I'd say to get
To
the
get the
sound
feel of
under.
it.
Get that sound under. Know how to play it.
Well, I would say practice it, actually, if you're gonna start from scratch. I would say practice without the bass drum.
That's
So
right.
and then you concentrate.
To get the pulse in the
Yeah,
head.
you get it right. And then
the
once
pulse.
you get that, you know, then you can add your bass drum depending on the rhythmic situation that you're gonna be in.
Because you gotta be making the pulse with the brush.
Right. First of all.
First of all, that's the main thing you gotta
I'd like to
understand.
bring up another thing. The greatest, my favorite rock and roll drummer that I have ever heard in my life was a guy named Leo Morris. I'm not going to go the other way.
Talking about Idris?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But a lot of what he did for me was the way he played the bolero on the snare drum, right? But he used the bass drum. Of course, he had to use the bass drum.
Right.
And he was playing with a big band. You know, he was playing the Howard Theater or Apollo or whatever. He said, but I mean, he wouldn't have gotten that sound out of sticks. That he played brushes with, you know,
Upbeat, yeah.
you know. So the bass drum was in there, you know.
That relates to brushes somehow?
Well, it did. He played the brushes.
Oh, he's doing brushes.
He was doing it with brushes.
With brushes.
And it cut through the big band. He was playing behind the singers. Jerry Butler, the Impressions.
That's what I heard. Yeah. But
it was with brushes, brushes and a mallet that he used to play. Brushes, you know, that he made.
To make another point about the bass drum, is I would recommend for the younger drum students is to set up the bass drum with the front head on, with no hole, and take the pillow out. And just any muffling at all, put some felt strips and learn how to play the bass drum like that. It doesn't mean you always have to play the bass drum, but at least learn how to play the bass drum.
With the tone.
That way you really learn how to control it?
Because you learn how to, can touch the head and feather the drum, and you're going to hear a little sustain. And that's good. That's going to fill out the bar band. Because if you do it with the typical, what I call the kick drum versus the bass drum, because they always call it the kick drum. But let's bring it back to the bass drum, as it was in the marching band, and learn how to play that. Then you get that control that we're all talking about. Is that you learn how to just touch it with your felt beater, nice soft felt beater, and you hear that just warm, sustaining tone that's filling up the low end.
Wow. You want to try to get something that's
you can play the kick all you want, but at least you have options. You have the ability to do
that. That's another whole thing. Bass drum thing.
That's a whole other thing.
Bass drum thing. Dizzy Gillespie used to always say, if he was teaching the drums to a student, he would not play nothing but the bass drum for 2 years. I mean, he was trying to, show the importance of really all the different nuances of playing the bass drum. Yeah. Did anybody ever hear it's been remastered so you can really hear it now? Try it if you get a chance here. It's Chick Webb playing Clap Hands, Here Comes Charlie. If you heard the remaster, this man is playing, now that's the tempo.
Yeah.
But not only was he keeping time, he was feathering
with his foot.
So he was getting two sounds, like open sound, and playing with he would press it.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a beat. I heard this, I thought it was an engineering glitch or something. I said, wait a minute, what? And it's
think about the technology of that pedal
compared
to today's pedal.
To do that with his bass drum, because Roy Evans was telling me, you gotta learn how to do that. Then Joe Jones does. I said, what are you talking about? He said, man, he be playing 4/4, but he be playing like, it's not like he's playing boom. He sound like he's saying, oosh.
It's like Kenny Clark used to change one beat every 4 or 8 bars.
The text
Kenny Clark would change one beat and give you,
make that thing
right.
You know?
But Joe used the tip of the head on his bass drum.
Yeah.
I got tip of the head.
That's scare you to death.
Like Billy Hart was saying, with Shirley he had to play very slow. But you talking about with a singer, with a spoon, was could sing the slowest tempo that I ever played in my life. Yeah, boy, how does Witherspoon have you right out here? I'm trying to bring that beat in, boy.